Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. When I first heard the rumor floating around that the Miami Dolphins were in discussions with the Pittsburgh Steelers about trading Jonnu Smith, I'll admit, I raised an eyebrow. My initial reaction was, seriously? Jonnu just had a career year. It felt like classic Dolphins overthinking again. But after sitting on it for a couple of days, letting it marinate like a slow-cooked barbecue brisket, I've come around. I'm not against the Dolphins trading Jonnu Smith. That might sound wild, especially considering what he did last season. 88 catches, 800-plus yards, 8 touchdowns. That's Pro Bowl stuff, man. But football is all about timing, the cap space, and team direction. If the Dolphins can get value, and I mean real value, this might be the time to sell high. It's not about emotion. It's about the long-term play. And right now, Miami might just be signaling that a new chapter is about to begin. Now, let's get real here. Jonnu Smith is about to hit 30. That's not ancient, sure. But in NFL terms, especially for a tight end, that's creeping into the back nine of a career. And the Dolphins, well, they've already burned their fingers with some of these big contracts. TYREEK Hill's drama, the Jalen Ramsey extension, it's all catching up to them. The reality is that Hill could be gone after next year. Ramsey's already on the trading block. So when you look at Jonnu and his age, it makes sense that the Dolphins might hesitate before locking him up long term. They've learned the hard way what happens when you tie up cap space and stars who aren't going to be around for the next playoff push. Miami wants to get younger, cheaper, and hungrier. Smith, as talented as he is, doesn't exactly fit that timeline anymore. What's even more telling is the direction Chris Grier and this front office are going. Look at their draft strategy. This year, it was all about rebuilding the trenches, especially on the defensive line. That's not a win-now move. That's a foundational reset. Grier might not say it out loud, but his actions scream rebuild. It's almost like he's admitting that the 2019 strategy didn't quite work. And it makes sense. Miami's got holes, and not just little patch-up jobs. We're talking deep structural gaps. The next 2 years are about retooling, replenishing draft capital, and grooming the next generation. And if that's the plan, holding on to a 30-year-old tight end on the verge of demanding a new deal, that might not be the smartest call. And let's not ignore Jonnu Smith's usage. Jose Esquer pointed it out perfectly. Smith only played 55% of the offensive snaps last year. That's not what you'd expect from someone being hyped as a top-tier tight end. He's not an elite blocker. He's not a George Kittle who can stay in and pancake a linebacker on one play, then go 20 yards up the seam on the next. Smith is a receiving tight end, period. And even then, a lot of his production came on short passes, screens, and underneath routes. He wasn't exactly stretching the field or dominating mismatches. So you have to ask, was last year a breakout? Or was it just a perfect storm of opportunity? The Dolphins might be asking the same thing right now. And look, I respect the hustle. Jonnu wants a new deal. I don't blame him one bit. He's got one last shot to cash in. This is likely the final big payday of his career. Football's brutal like that. One injury, one off year, and you're out. So yeah, go chase that bag. But from the Dolphins' perspective, how much do you really pay a guy who, before last season, never caught more than 50 passes or top 600 receiving yards? That one big year. It's impressive, but it's not enough to throw caution to the wind. Miami's probably got a number in mind, and if Smith wants more than that, well, it might be time to move on before emotions get in the way of business. Here's another thing that's not being talked about enough. This is Jonnu's 4th NFL team. That matters. If he's as good as last year, made him look, why hasn't he stuck anywhere long term? It's not like teams are lining up to build their offense around him. The Dolphins signed him to a 2-year deal for a reason. They saw him as a piece, not the centerpiece. Let's be honest, a lot of his numbers last season were inflated by the scheme. Screens, quick passes behind the line, scheme plays that got him open. It's not like he was lining up and beating linebackers, one-on-one every down. So before we crown him as Miami's next big weapon, let's pump the brakes a bit. Now, as for a possible trade, look, I don't think the Dolphins are getting a king's ransom here. Jonnu's good, but the market for tight ends isn't crazy. Hot right now unless you're Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews. But if Pittsburgh is offering something intriguing, say Darnell Washington, then maybe you pick up the phone. Washington is young, raw, and a total unit at tight end. He hasn't broken out yet, but the upside is there. Plus, he's cheap. Still on a rookie deal for 2 more years. And here's the kicker. Miami doesn't have a single tight end under contract after this season. That's a big hole. Bringing in someone like Washington could be a smart long-term move if the Dolphins are serious about starting fresh. At the end of the day, I actually think the Dolphins should keep Jonnu. If the price is right. He's productive, he fits the current scheme, and he gives Tua another reliable option. But if they're not going to redo his deal, and it doesn't sound like they want to, then you have to start looking at options. Letting him play out the final year of his contract is fine. But if someone offers real value, even a mid-round pick or a young developmental guy, it's worth considering. The last thing you want is to lose him in free agency and get nothing. The NFL is all about maximizing your assets, and right now, Jonnu's stock is as high as it's ever been. So, where does this leave us? In that frustrating, murky gray area where fans don't get clear answers. We're left reading between the lines of press conferences and watching which players get more reps in minicamp. But one thing is becoming clearer. This team is slowly, yet tearing it down. Not in a full tank job kind of way, but in a methodical, calculated reset. The Dolphins have been flirting with being a contender for the last few years, but now it looks like they're stepping back, reassessing what really works and preparing for another push, maybe in 2026 when a new core will be ready. If that's the direction, then Jonnu Smith, as solid as he is, just doesn't fit the puzzle anymore. In the end, Dolphins fans are going to have to accept something tough. This team is shifting gears. Jonnu Smith has been a fun story. A bright spot, but he's not the future. He's a piece of the current moment, and that moment is already changing. If the Dolphins can get something in return, they absolutely should consider it. If not, let him play out his deal, hope for another strong season, and then reevaluate. Either way, I'm not against the trade. I get it. The timing might be awkward. But in the NFL, you don't get points for sentimentality. You win by making the right move at the right time, even when it hurts a little. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? The NFL world was absolutely rocked this week with an explosive rumor coming out of Miami. According to multiple anonymous sources close to the team, superstar wide receiver TYREEK Hill is reportedly threatening to sit out of the upcoming season if the Miami Dolphins don't immediately trade fellow receiver Jalen Waddle. That's right, folks. Hill, known for his electric speed and playmaking ability, is allegedly so dissatisfied with the current situation that he's ready to take drastic action. This is a bombshell, not just for Dolphins fans, but for the entire NFL landscape. Two of the league's top wideouts, who many believed were perfectly complementary on the field, now potentially at odds. It's the kind of story that could redefine Miami's entire offseason strategy and shake up the AFC East in a major way. But let's dive deeper into how this situation even reached this boiling point. From the outside looking in, the duo of TYREEK Hill and Jalen Waddle appeared unstoppable. They were a nightmare for defensive coordinators, boasting speed, agility, and a remarkable ability to stretch the field. Together, they created one of the most potent receiving tandems in the NFL, helping quarterback Tua Tagovailoa post some of the best numbers of his career. Yet, behind closed doors, it seems not everything was as harmonious as it appeared. Reports suggest that TYREEK Hill has grown increasingly frustrated with Waddle's growing role in the offense. Some insiders claim Hill feels that Waddle is not only cutting into his target share, but also undermining his leadership in the locker room. This alleged power struggle has apparently been simmering for months. But now, with the season looming, it has exploded into public view with this reported ultimatum. The idea that TYREEK Hill would issue such a severe ultimatum might seem shocking to some, but for those who followed his career closely, it's not entirely out of character. Hill has always been a fiercely competitive player who isn't afraid to speak his mind or make bold moves to assert his value. Whether it was his time with the Kansas City Chiefs or now with the Dolphins, he's made it clear that he wants to be the focal point of any offense he's part of. Sources familiar with the Dolphins' locker room dynamics claim that Hill has privately voiced concerns about Waddle's fit alongside him. feeling that their skill sets overlap too much and that the team would be better served by trading Waddle for assets that could improve other areas of the roster, such as the offensive line or secondary. It's a stunning stance for Hill to take. Meanwhile, Jalen Waddle has remained completely silent in public about these rumors. The young star has always been known for his professionalism and team-first attitude. He's consistently shown up, put in the work, and produced on the field. Last season, Waddle once again proved he's one of the most dynamic young wide receivers in the game, combining for over 1,000 receiving yards and making numerous clutch plays. For many Dolphins fans, the idea of trading Waddle seems unthinkable. He's a homegrown talent, drafted by Miami, developed by Miami, and now poised to be one of the faces of the franchise for years to come. But with Tyreek Hill reportedly drawing a line in the sand, the front office is suddenly facing one of the toughest decisions in recent franchise history. Keep the ascending young star or side with the proven veteran. This situation puts Miami's general manager Chris Grier and head coach Mike McDaniel in an incredibly difficult position. On one hand, Tyreek Hill is a once-in-a-generation talent, an all-pro receiver who transforms any offense he's a part of. His chemistry with Tua has been undeniable, and his leadership has been credited with elevating the team's competitive spirit. On the other hand, Waddle represents the future, a young, affordable star who's still on his rookie contract and who has the potential to anchor the Dolphins' offense for the next decade. Trading Waddle could net the Dolphins significant draft capital or immediate veteran help, but it would also risk alienating a fan base that has embraced Waddle as one of their own. And yet keeping him risks alienating Tyreek Hill, who, as the rumors suggest, might not be willing to play under the current circumstances. The fan reaction to this rumor has been predictably divided and intense. Social media has been ablaze, with Dolphins fans passionately arguing both sides of the debate. Some fans are siding with Tyreek Hill, believing that maximizing his production and keeping him happy should be the team's top priority. They argue that Hill is a proven commodity and that the Dolphins' window to contend for a Super Bowl is now, not years down the line. Others, however, are firmly in Waddle's corner, seeing him as the future of the franchise and arguing that no player, not even Tyreek Hill, should be allowed to dictate personnel decisions to this extent. It's an emotional issue that cuts to the very core of what it means to build a winning team in the modern NFL, balancing superstar egos with long-term roster construction. Adding fuel to the fire is the fact that neither the Dolphins nor Tyreek Hill's camp has issued any official statement to clarify the situation. The team has maintained radio silence, refusing to address the swirling rumors or confirm whether there is any truth to them. This lack of transparency has only heightened speculation and left fans and analysts alike scrambling for any shred of insight. Some beat reporters covering the Dolphins insist that the tension between Hill and Waddle has been evident for months, pointing to subtle body language on the sidelines and occasional terse comments in press conferences. Others dismiss the rumors as baseless gossip designed to stir up controversy in the slow off-season news cycle. But as we all know, in the NFL where there's smoke, there's often fire. If the Dolphins do decide to trade Jalen Waddle, the potential landing spots for the young receiver are virtually endless. Nearly every team in the league will be interested in acquiring a player of Waddle's caliber, particularly those with struggling passing offenses or with young quarterbacks in need of a reliable weapon. Teams like the New England Patriots, Chicago Bears, or even the Kansas City Chiefs, who ironically could be looking to replace Tyreek Hill's production since his departure, might all be interested. A trade of this magnitude would send shockwaves throughout the league and could completely reshape the competitive balance in both conferences. It would also likely set off a chain reaction of other trades and roster moves as teams jockey to respond to Miami's bold decision. The stakes, quite frankly, couldn't be higher. On the flip side, if the Dolphins choose to stand firm and refuse to trade Waddle, they risk a potentially ugly standoff with Tyreek Hill. A sit-out by Hill would be catastrophic for Miami's offense, stripping them of their most explosive playmaker and putting additional pressure on Tua Tagovailoa to produce without his top weapon. It could also fracture the locker room, forcing players to pick sides and undermining the team's cohesion just as they are poised to make a deep playoff run. The Dolphins have been carefully building towards Super Bowl contention, and losing Hill's services, even temporarily, could derail that progress, yet giving in to his demands might set a dangerous precedent about player power within the organization. It's a true no-win scenario that will test the leadership and resolve of everyone within the Dolphins front office. Ultimately, this situation underscores the increasingly complex dynamics of modern NFL team management. In an era where player empowerment is at an all-time high and superstars wield unprecedented influence over organizational decisions, front offices must navigate these waters carefully. Tyreek Hill's reported ultimatum is just the latest example of how personal dynamics, contract situations, and competitive ambitions can collide in unpredictable ways. Whether this rumor proves to be true or is ultimately debunked, it serves as a potent reminder of the high-stakes drama that defines professional football today. For Dolphins fans and NFL observers alike, all eyes will be on Miami in the coming weeks to see how this saga unfolds. Will the Dolphins make a blockbuster, a trade, or will they find a way to reconcile their two stars and keep their Super Bowl hopes alive? And so, as we wrap up today's breaking news segment, the story of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and the Miami Dolphins remains one of the most captivating narratives of this offseason. The drama has all the elements of a Hollywood thriller. Big personalities, high stakes, and the future of a franchise hanging in the balance. For now, we can only speculate and wait for official word from the team or the players involved. But one thing is for certain, this situation is far from over, and it will continue to dominate headlines until a resolution is reached. As always, we'll be here bringing you all the latest updates, rumors, and analysis as this story develops. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update on your favorite NFL stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.